You did everything you were supposed to do. You built the career, you worked the long hours, you chased the promotions, and eventually, the salary numbers started getting bigger. You crossed income milestones that used to feel huge, the kind you used to write down in journals as future goals. But something strange happened. The number went up, and the feeling didn't. Maybe the first time you ignored it. Maybe the second time you told yourself you just needed one more raise. But by the third or fourth time your income increased and your life didn't suddenly feel secure, you stopped talking about it. Because it doesn't make sense. You're not supposed to feel financially stressed when you're making this much money, but you do. Here's the thing. The financial advice industry rarely tells you. Income and financial security are not the same thing. In fact, your brain doesn't even process them the same way, because the feeling of being financially safe doesn't live in your bank account. It lives in your nervous system. And your nervous system doesn't read numbers. It reads patterns. It reads signals. It reads evidence about the future, which means something important. More money didn't fix the problem, because more money was never the thing your brain was actually waiting for. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly what it was. Let me show you what this looks like in real life. 3 years ago, she had a number in her head. Not a savings goal, not a net worth target, just a salary. The number that would finally make everything feel different. At the time, she was making about $68,000 a year. And in her mind, the number that would change everything was $95,000. Because at $95K, things would finally feel easier. No more tight feeling in her chest when she opened her banking app. No more Sunday night mental math about which bills to pay first. No more low-grade financial anxiety following her around all week. In her mind, the problem was simple. She didn't have enough money. So she focused on getting more. 2 job changes later, 26 months later, the offer letter finally arrived, $97,000. She crossed the number, and for a moment, the relief was real. But here's what happened next. 3 years later, she's making $104,000, and the tight feeling? It's still there. Same place in her body, somewhere between her chest and her stomach. The numbers in the banking app are bigger now, but so are the expenses. There's a car payment she didn't have before, an apartment that cost $600 more than the last one, a skincare routine that somehow became a $200 monthly line item without her ever consciously deciding it should. And when she actually looks at the numbers, her savings rate is almost identical to what it was when she made $68,000. She isn't reckless. She reviews her accounts. She even has a budget somewhere, the way people have a gym membership they occasionally return to. She listens to financial podcasts. She knows the frameworks. And yet, the feeling hasn't changed. She is objectively more financially stable than she was 3 years ago. But the quiet background anxiety, the feeling that something still isn't quite safe, never moved. The income changed, the anxiety didn't. And that's the moment most people assume something is wrong with them. But it's not a discipline problem. It's not a budgeting problem. It's a brain problem. And neuroscience actually explains why. In 1971, 2 psychologists named Philip Brickman and Donald Campbell introduced a concept that explains a lot about money and happiness. They called it the hedonic treadmill. Here's what that means. Your brain isn't designed to maintain emotional states. It's designed to detect change. So when something good happens, like a raise, a promotion, or crossing a new income threshold, your brain notices the shift. Dopamine spikes. You feel relief, maybe even excitement. But then something predictable happens. Within a few weeks or months, your brain recalibrates. The new salary becomes normal, and your emotional baseline resets. Not because anything went wrong, but because that's literally how your brain evolved to work. If humans kept feeling the same level of pleasure from the same situation forever, we'd stop improving our circumstances. So the brain adapts, and adaptation puts you on a treadmill. Every raise creates a temporary emotional boost and then disappears into the new normal. So you set a new number, you work toward it, you hit it, and the treadmill moves again. Over time, something else happens. Your lifestyle quietly adapts too. Not dramatically, not recklessly, just gradually. The nicer apartment, the upgraded car, subscriptions and habits that slowly become normal. The result is something economists see constantly. Income rises, spending rises with it, and savings rates stay almost exactly the same. But the hedonic treadmill explains the spending. It doesn't fully explain the anxiety. For that, neuroscience gives us another piece of the puzzle. In the 1990s, neuroscientist Amy Arnstein studied what chronic stress does to the brain, specifically the prefrontal cortex. This is the part of your brain responsible for planning, impulse control, and long-term decision-making. Her research found something important. The prefrontal cortex doesn't just shut down during extreme stress. It also weakens during chronic, low-grade stress, the kind that doesn't feel dramatic, the kind that feels like being busy or behind or slightly unsettled most of the time. When your brain maintains a constant low-level threat signal, the prefrontal cortex loses some of its decision-making power. Long-term planning becomes harder, impulse control weakens, and your brain defaults to short-term thinking. Not because you're irresponsible, because your brain is operating under pressure. In a financial life, that shows up in subtle ways. You keep meaning to move money into investments. You keep meaning to review subscriptions. You keep meaning to build a long-term financial plan. None of those things are hard, but they require calm, focused thinking. And when the brain feels slightly unsafe all the time, those tasks get delayed. Over years, the cost compounds. Missed investment windows, delayed contributions, decisions made from avoidance instead of strategy, and the gap between the financial life you intended to build and the one you actually built can easily reach 6 figures, not because of dramatic mistakes, but because your brain kept choosing the easier path under stress. And here's the final piece most people miss. Your nervous system does not calculate safety based on income. It calculates safety based on patterns in the environment. Your brain is constantly scanning for evidence that the future is accounted for, that resources are stable, that there's a buffer between you and potential problems. And a large paycheck landing in an account that gets mostly spent every month doesn't look like safety to your brain. It looks like a recurring near miss. Income arrives, spending absorbs it, the account gets low, income arrives again. To your nervous system, that pattern still looks like scarcity. So the threat signal never turns off. The income changed, the anxiety didn't. That's why most traditional financial advice feels frustrating. Budget better, spend less, earn more. Those are all strategies focused on numbers. But your nervous system doesn't read numbers. It reads patterns. And if the pattern hasn't changed, the feeling won't change either. Once you understand this, something powerful happens. You stop trying to earn your way into security, and you start designing your way into it. You stop chasing income targets as the finish line, and you start building the financial environment your brain was actually waiting for. That shift changes everything, because the goal isn't just more money. The goal is finally turning off the background noise of financial stress. So, how do you change the pattern your brain is reading? Not with a complicated financial overhaul, but with 3 structural changes. First, the safety signal account. This is not an emergency fund. An emergency fund exists for problems. The safety signal account exists for your nervous system. Its only job is to grow and never be touched. Why does that matter? Because your brain needs to see something accumulating that nothing is consuming. That pattern, money consistently building, is one of the strongest signals of future stability. And the key is automation. The transfer happens on payday, before spending starts, not with leftovers. First, because decisions made before financial stress builds during the month are always better decisions. Within a few months, the nervous system starts noticing the new pattern, money arriving and something growing. Second, the adaptation audit. This is how you make the hedonic treadmill visible. Look at your last 2 raises and identify which expenses increased within 6 months after each one. The car upgrade, the bigger apartment, the new subscriptions. Individually, they felt reasonable, but together, they likely absorbed most of the raise. Seeing the pattern creates a powerful opportunity because the next time your income increases, you can decide ahead of time where that money goes before lifestyle expansion cleans it. Third, the prefrontal window. One protected financial decision per week, scheduled, not reactive, not when you're stressed, but at a calm moment. This uses what we know about the brain. Your best financial thinking happens when your nervous system is relaxed, not when you're overwhelmed. One small decision a week, reviewing an account, moving money, adjusting a plan. Over a year, those calm decisions compound into a completely different financial trajectory. Here's a quick exercise. Pull up your last 3 years of income history. Write down each raise you received, then look at your savings rate for the 6 months before each raise and the 6 months after. What you're looking for is the gap, the difference between what that raise could have built and what it actually built. Then do one calculation. Take half of each raise increase, multiply it by the months since the raise, assume a modest investment return. The number you get represents something important, not guilt, not failure, just data. It's the cost of invisible adaptation, and once you can see the pattern, you can finally change it. If this video helped you understand why income hasn't produced the financial security you expected, the Wealth Psychology Workbook takes this idea further, because understanding the research is the first step, but the real change happens when you apply it to your own patterns. The workbook walks you through the exact process of identifying your money scripts, your nervous system triggers, and the structural signals your brain has been responding to for years. It's not motivational, it's practical. 7 days of guided work designed to help you build the financial environment your brain has actually been waiting for. If you want to go deeper, the link is in the description, because the treadmill runs until you understand it. And now you do.